Hello, I'm Matthias Zehfuss. I'm a professional dog trainer in Lawton, Oklahoma for more than 30 years. I am here to educate you about dogs and dog behavior.
Perfect. How did you get into dog training?
When I was a kid, we used to go on a Sunday on drives with my family. And every time it was my time to choose where to go, I told my father to go to a place outside my hometown in a small town and park in front of a kennel. And the kennel had 2 German Shepherds in there. And my father just parked there, and I just looked at the dog for as long as my father let me.
So did you ever have a dog yourself?
No, I was not allowed to have a dog. However, we had a Sears catalog. It was, of course, in Germany. It wasn't Sears. And I looked at that catalog, and they had actually dogs in the catalog. And so every time I was allowed to pick out a Christmas present or something, I looked at the dogs, and I always told them I want a dog, but I never got one.
So it's always something that you wanted?
It's always something I wanted to do. It was, yes, I think it's in my blood. I always loved dogs. I always wanted to work with dogs. I always wanted to train dogs. And as a matter of fact, I read, in my hometown we had a library. I read every book in my library about dogs.
Tell me about your first dog.
My first dog I had was a white bull terrier named Bronson. I bought him from one of the top breeders in Germany and in Europe for a lot of money back then. And I was actually not allowed to have a dog. So I went out and I bought a house so I can get a dog.
There's an interesting story about the loan that you got when you bought that house.
Yes, I went to the bank to buy a house. And when I know the dog was so expensive, I didn't have the money, I went back to the bank and I amended the price of my house by a few $1,000s. And I told the loan officer, I want that money because I want to buy the dog. And he said to me, he said, "Are you serious?" And I said, "I'm dead serious." He said, "Just give me the money. I need that dog and I want that house." And he did.
So tell me about coming to the U.S. and what happened when you came here.
Well, when I got married to an American lady, and we came to the United States, and we first came to South Carolina, and I know I couldn't do what I did in Germany for a living, and I thought it might not be a bad idea now to start training dogs. I can start fresh. And so I looked around in Dog World magazine back then, and I found a college in the United States, and I went there to study dog behavior and dog training. And then I went there and I graduated from there.
So you have a degree in dog training?
Yes, I have a degree in dog behavior and dog training, and actually including also protection training for dogs.
So how did you end up in Lawton?
Well, my ex-wife, now ex-wife, was stationed in Fort Sill, and I came with her to Lawton. We got divorced. Unfortunately, we got divorced, but I stayed here, and I always wanted to train dogs, and I didn't want to go back to Germany without saying that I have tried to follow my dream. And I did. So I opened a business in Lawton with absolutely no money.
And then what happened after that?
Well, I had no money, so I actually sold a razor and I hawked a jacket at a pawn shop, and I got $47.50. And with $47.50, I pumped my car full of gas so I actually can drive somewhere, and I went to put an ad in the paper for $5. And when I put the ad in the paper, I sat all week next to my phone and waited it to ring. All day long I sat there and waited for the phone to ring.
And did it ring?
No. So I went back and then I fixed the ad.
Okay.
And I fixed the ad and I came home and the phone started to ring, yes.
So you had the wrong phone number in the ad?
No, I had the right phone number, but the ad was so long that I don't think people know it was dog training.
Gotcha.
So I fixed it, and I put dog training on there so people actually know this is a dog training ad. And then I got phone calls, yes.
But you actually left Lawton to go teach at college, to teach people
Yes.
how to train dogs. Talk
Absolutely.
about that.
Well, I opened my business and I thought I was pretty successful at it. But the college I went to, they called me over and over again to offer me a job as an instructor. And I first turned it down, but after thinking about it, I thought, you know what, I really wouldn't mind teaching other people how to do it too. And to be honest about it, I thought it's going to look great on a resume if I ever need one. So after they offered it, I think they offered it 3 or 4 times or more, I accepted it, and I got a U-Haul. I packed all of my little belongings I had because I didn't have much, but I went up to the state of West Virginia and I started to teach there.
But you eventually left there to come back to Lawton.
Yes. I like the teaching. However, I was not comfortable up there. I just wasn't comfortable. I kind of missed Lawton, and I know this sounds maybe a little bit crazy to some people who live in Lawton or who are not from Lawton, but I did. I missed Lawton, and I did it for over a year, and I really wanted to have my own business. That was always my dream. I like to teach, but I really wanted to have my own business. And when I have my own business, I teach anyway. I just teach. Actually, I teach more.
Right. So you've had your own business here in Lawton for over 30 years, and your whole philosophy is dog training the German way. What does
Yes.
that mean?
That was actually my very first T-shirt I ever had printed. I had a T-shirt I made. It said "Dog Training the German Way," and what it really means is that we Germans, we are disciplined. That's we're disciplined, and I call my training something like a mixture between Barry Manilow and AC/DC. So you have to be a little bit soft, but you also have to have some discipline at the end. And that's what I always thought about dog training the German way. You have some discipline, but you also have to have some heart. You have to teach from your heart. And in Germany, we always say you have to have some soft hands, but you also have to be strict. With certain dogs and certain breeds.
So it's not like with people. So dogs are completely different than people. And how are they different? Can you talk about some of how their temperaments are different and how they rationalize differently than people?
Well, first of all, dogs can't rationalize. A lot of people think, and I hear this every day in my business. I hear it every day. People say, my dog can think, and I always say, no, they can't. Dogs cannot rationalize. They think, but they think different than us. Dogs live in the moment. What is actually a great thing, sometimes I think it would be great if we could live in the moment, but we can't. But dogs do. Dogs live in the moment, so everything is new. Now they also learn from when you teach them something from repetition, they learn what you teach them, But if they have a bad experience in their life, they also remember those bad experiences, And that's why you have to rehabilitate them and make them better and try to get rid of the bad experiences. And that's where I think helps, because a dog does live in the moment, that you can get rid of this, and then they can always look forward to something new and something better.
Something that you also believe in your training is that dogs can't say because.
Yes. Sometimes when I talk to my customers about dog training and they say to me that the dog can think, I always say they cannot say because. It happened to me because I did this. And a very easy way of thinking about this is, and I come always up with this idea. I tell customers of mine, I say, if your dog is in the kennel, and you put a water bucket in there full of water, and it's in the middle of the summertime, and the dog dumps the water bucket over.
Why did he do it?
Why did he do it? Because if the dog could think, rationalize, he would never do this, because now he has no water anymore. So that's what I always tell people when they say my dog can think. So the dog would then say, I dumped the water over, now I don't have any water anymore.
That makes
because
sense.
I dumped it over.
Right.
But he can't say that.
That makes a lot of sense. So your way of training is different than other dog trainers then, obviously. You have a completely different background. So what can people expect when they come to you?
When they come to me, they can expect that I have a guideline, and I have a very direct method of training dogs. And I lay a foundation, a very strict foundation, how I want the dog to behave, and how I want you, the customer, the owner of the dog, how I want you to build a relationship with your dog. That is very important to me, that the owner of the dog will have a great relationship with the dog. And my method teaches you this, step by step, how to do this. If you follow my method, your dog will be great with you. And that's why I say about my Barry Manilow and AC/DC. You have to learn to mix those two together. You cannot always be sweet to the dog. And if the dog is a very tough dog and he won't listen to you, you have to show the dog discipline, and you have to show the dog that you are in charge.
Would you say that you're a hands-on trainer or hands-off?
I think that I'm a hands-on trainer. I don't necessarily touch your dog all the time, but I explain to you how your dog thinks. I explain to you how you have to think so you can go into your dog's mind and you can understand your dog. That's my goal. If you understand your dog will be great. But if you don't understand your dog, it doesn't matter if I tell you this is how you teach your dog to sit, and you teach your dog to sit, and then the dog sits, but you don't understand why the dog sits.
Right.
And if your dog gets up from the sit, you don't know why your dog gets up from the sit. This is what I teach you. I teach you how the dog thinks, and I teach you how you can fix this.
So you've been doing this for so long. Obviously, you can work with the kinds of people you want to work with. So who
Yes.
are those people?
I like to work with people who really want to train their dog. I like to work with people who have problems with their dog and who come to me and they want to solve their problem. And if I tell something, I say, hey, George, I want you to do this to the dog. And this is why, because I explain it to you. This is why. And this is what your dog thinks when you do this. And then they say, I will do that. Not coming back a week later and say, oh, I forgot about it, or I didn't have time to do this. Because if you forget about your dog, if your dog has a behavior problem, the behavior problem will be still there. It's not going to go away because you forgot about it. If you want to fix this, you have to listen, and you have to want to work the dog. And that's the kind of people I love to work with those people. I always say, some days I train dogs. I love those days, like the Sunday mornings. You know the Sunday mornings.
I do know the Sunday mornings.
Yes, I have said this for many years. I love my Sunday morning people.
I'm one of the Sunday morning people.
Yes, I know, and I love my Sunday morning people. You're one of them I love because you are one of them who also want to work your dog. And you are very interested. You always ask me questions, you know. Not as somebody who doesn't ask me questions, doesn't want to necessarily work. That's not what I'm saying, but I like the people who want to really work their dog.
Perfect. So what can we expect from this podcast going forward?
You can expect that I'm trying to take you into the dog's mind. I teach you how to problem solve maybe a little bit. I bring up maybe some different ideas in dog training. I also bring in all of my 30-year experience. And you know what? I'm going to throw in a bunch of stories. I have a lot of stories. I have unbelievable stories over the last. I have done thousands of dogs. I have helped a lot of people. And I want to bring some of those stories in because people tell me that I like to tell stories. So I think this may not be a bad platform for me to tell some stories about some of the dogs I have fixed. And maybe you can learn out of the people's mistakes they have done, not on purpose necessarily, but you don't know. That's why you come to me. And then also how we fix them.
Perfect. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about social media and dog training, service dogs, and
Yes.
we're going to talk about a new program at the local prison here in Lawton, Oklahoma.
Yes.
So stay tuned.